Hey, stop what you're doing. Listen to this mini barn sponsor.
Shed builders, are you looking for the latest in shed innovation? Do you want to sell what your customers demand?
Introducing Rampage door system. Forget about lifting heavy ramps into position to use for your portable shed. The Rampage door system doubles as a door and a ramp, saving you time and money.
If you're a manufacturer of sheds looking to install Rampage doors on your line of sheds,
Call today, 833-726-7776.
Rampage.
Welcome back to shedsforsale.com studios. We have here with us today live in studio, Casey. Introduce yourself if you would, sir.
Yes, Casey Wiggins with United Portable Buildings. Excited to be here. Glad you guys invited us out and excited to do this.
Came all the way up from Texas just to see us.
Just to see you guys. And you're buying lunch, right?
Of
Absolutely.
course. Of course.
Bologna sandwich or ham? I don't
Hey,
remember
if we're having bologna, as long as you're going to fry it and you're going to toast the bread, I'm in.
Hey,
fried bologna and donuts.
that's our kind of people right here.
We use donuts as the bread around here.
That's the reason why we don't shop in the 32 waste section.
That's right. I haven't done that for years, Casey.
So
Wow.
accurate.
It's been a while.
So accurate. So tell me a little bit more about, United Portable. Tell me a little bit more about yourself, how you came to know the industry, and just take it away, man. And
Sure.
teach us, wise one.
Oh, man. So, I tell the story a good bit in person with people, but as a matter of fact, I was telling it last night or yesterday evening in a meeting, and did law enforcement for several years.
Nice.
Did not know anything about the shed industry. Got out in 2011 out of law enforcement and was a federal narcotics agent for 3 years, last part of my career there. And honestly, what got out of that to get my life kind of back straightened out with God. I had been spending so much time out in the field, and my wife and my kids were kind of suffering from the time away and didn't know what I was going to do, had prayed about it, and some opportunity when I got out. Didn't tell anyone I had left law enforcement, just was looking for God to open a door. Mm-hmm. And it did. A door opened up within 30, 45 days of me being out of that. It got into, first I was selling used cars, had taken over a business for an older gentleman at our church, and found Carolina Carports. As a matter of fact, Eric Cochran, I don't know if you guys know him. He's been with carport industry. Me and him got started together in this whole thing. And he's now with a company called Bonafide over on the East Coast, but we still stay in touch and do business together.
Nice.
But anyway, he introduced me to Carolina Carports, started doing that, started doing some U-Haul rentals, and long story short, within a year of that, I had a gentleman stop by my business one day, and I had about a half acre of gravel out in front of my business. And he pulled up, and I knew he was a salesperson. I knew he was a sales guy, right away.
How'd you know?
Oh.
What gave it away?
Man, just that presence, he getting out, and just that walk, that talk. I'm like, he's going to try to sell me something.
Yep.
And my goal is always to a salesman is when I see a salesman, it's like, I'm going to sell the salesman something. So anyway, it starts. So he gets to his point finally, and he says, listen, I'm a sales rep for Graceland Portable Buildings. And I said, I don't know who that is or anything. And he started talking about sheds. And I said, man, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't know. He started showing me some brochures and pictures and things. And so he was like, hey, I think this would be a great location. We need a presence here. And it's Grenada, Mississippi is where we were, me and my wife and my family.
Okay.
And so I went ahead and said, sure, bring them out. Let's try it, And I told my wife, I said, look, we can make an extra $500 or $1,000 a month off this. If we can do that, that'd be a blessing to our family right now, And they got them out into my lot, set them up, did a little training they did. And in the first month, I sold $80,000 in sheds.
That's
and
awesome.
So you guys know the commission structure,
Oh,
so
yeah.
that was pretty surprising.
Yep.
And then the next month, I sold $120,000 in sheds.
Nice.
And that's when I went home to my wife and I said, okay, I think we're going to focus on sheds. And so that's where our shed journey began in Grenada, Mississippi. We ended up opening up 2 other retail locations over the next couple of years.
Okay.
And then just really expanded our network, started getting to know people in the RTO world. Scott Mitchell out of Paducah, Kentucky.
Yeah, we know Scott.
Yeah, started getting to know people, the Atwoods out of Highland, Tennessee, and just started really getting connected with people. And then in 15, we got connected with StarTech Builders out of Temple, Texas.
Okay.
And they had a shop over in Alabama, and I became a sales rep for them a couple of years. And that was really fun, really good experience. Got to travel around Alabama, Mississippi, and set up dealers and shut down dealers and train dealers. And what I found that I enjoyed the most was growing and nurturing and educating dealers on marketing and how to grow their business.
Yeah.
At that time, I learned in the shed industry, a lot of dealers do not treat their locations as an entrepreneurial type situation. They treat it more like
preach.
it's more like an hourly job for them. And so I came along with Excel documents and charts and spreadsheets, and they're looking at me like, what is this? And I'm like, well, these are your sales for the last 12 months and 24 months. And these are your good months and these are your bad months. And by the way, here's Google Maps where your sales are located at, and your hot spots here, but you're not doing so well here. Why don't you move your marketing here? And we would take dealers from doing $25,000 a month to $80,000 and $90,000 a month within 6 months.
Yep.
You know, and
That's
so
awesome.
that was a strong point. And so that kicked off, and then there was a need for shed hauling. StarTech couldn't keep up with the deliveries, so I got into that side of the business, and been in that business, still in that space. A company called Charlie's Transport. Named that business after my wife's grandmother. And that's been going strong and good. And then moved to Texas, and that's where United Portable Buildings was birthed in 2017. So,
Man, you didn't tell me I had a cop coming.
yeah,
You scared?
Yeah.
Thought you was getting arrested.
we'll break the warrants out in a little bit.
It was so funny. Well, I mean, we were talking a little bit before we
Yeah.
started that I started, like I was a jailer before I went into like customer service. I went to work for the casino. The casino taught me customer service. Let me be clear. Like I've said before, they know that you're going to leave usually empty-handed. So you're going to leave an experience. So they taught you how to be really good at providing that. And, that was like much of the opportunity for us here and where we grew up, and ag stuff, river work, and pretty much jails and prisons and things like that. You know, it seemed like that was the majority of the work available. So that's really cool. Thank you for your service. You know, we definitely, I love the Back the Blue movement, and we have Leos that are, you know, been in our family as well. So certainly appreciate your service to the community in that respect. So like, wow, it's just there's a lot there.
There's a lot there.
That
I
you
went
were just
through
talking about. When did you start in Graceland?
That was in 2011.
2011.
Beginning of 11. Yep.
So was that the South or North Mississippi? I'm not familiar with.
So that's kind of central Mississippi.
Okay.
Trying to think of the sales rep's name. It just slipped my mind.
That happens.
I'll think of it in a minute. But anyway, that's the Delta area. So you're about 90 miles north of Jackson, Mississippi, and you're about 90 miles south of Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay. Yeah. I looked at, because I know that you guys you're headquartered in Temple, but then
Correct.
Mississippi has you have a big, it's like a 14-acre
Yes.
warehouse.
Yes.
Is that right?
We were really
That's
blessed
awesome.
this last year to be able. We needed to expand for the last couple of years, and
Wait,
we just
say that again. What? 14 acres?
14 acres.
Warehouse?
So the property's 14 acres.
Okay.
The warehouse space is about 100. Total space is about 140,000 square feet.
Oh, wow.
So if we get like a little Shed Geek smart car, can we drift inside?
Absolutely. Now you're talking my language. We'll put a mini cart track inside there. We'll go for it.
That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Have like a UPG car, like with a number on it.
So what we'll do is we'll get all the competitors to sponsor their own car, and they'll send a driver down, and we'll start having competitions like NASCAR.
We
So
get
that's
those little
great.
smart cars, and we'll jack them up and put big
Oh,
wheels
man,
on them. Have
let's
like a
do
little
it.
mini monster.
Let's do it.
Like,
Let's do it.
okay.
Don't tease me.
I don't know where we went. Hey, just so you know, Jim's in. Already know.
Yeah. These are the rabbit holes that we talked about earlier that we go down. So
Good,
you'll have to
good.
pull us out of those sometimes.
Well, see, the problem is if we go down those, I'm tempted to do whatever it is. So let's be careful.
I heard that.
So,
I heard that. That's I'm learning more and more that to have a little more fun as I get older. So
absolutely.
man,
So you've done everything, like in the industry almost, right? Or
So
have you done
that's-
everything?
When I'm talking to competitor dealers that want to come on board, and mind you, now I have the utmost respect for all our competitors. That's what I love about this industry. Is what I like about you guys is I do a lot of consulting for shed companies,
Yep.
and a lot of them are competitors.
Yeah.
Even through COVID, I've reached out to several of the more what you would call mom and pop businesses.
Yep.
And offered, and we've given out software that I've created for the shed business. We've given it out free to them.
Yep.
We try to help them in a lot of ways. So, you know, and when I'm talking to these competitor dealers, one of the things I present to them is how many shed company owners out there have been not only a dealer, a successful dealer with
Yep.
multiple locations, also managed the transportation side of the business, was a sales rep for over 2 years.
Yep, we talk about that.
And then turned around and handled all the marketing and for years for
a lot of hats.
and then on top of now started a ground from the ground up, a manufacturing / everything company. So
Yeah.
it's been a blessing to be able to do all parts of it. It's helped out a lot with what we do at UPB.
That's awesome.
It's been fun for us. I mean, like we've, this week we were down and the devastation that happened from the tornadoes and the events down in
Sure.
Mayfield and throughout the other Kentucky areas, Bowling Green and Tennessee and even up into Illinois. We were down there and like, there's so much, I don't even know if you'd call them competitors. I guess, I don't know what space to fit a lot of places in. Because you just overlap in some areas. You don't necessarily always directly
Sure.
compete, but I mean, Mayfield has a huge like shed, kind of like presence. And
Sure.
yeah, we were just like, hey, let's go help. You know, and we were lucky enough to be able to do that. So whenever we hear competition, you know, like we know that the professional salesperson, it's kind of like whenever you get together and you discuss ideas, they're not threatened by that because they're confident in what they're doing and they're going to take what they're doing to the max. You know, so even what you're doing, they may learn from, but they're not going to, like, I wouldn't be interested in going and stealing your vision.
Sure.
Because I have my own vision.
Correct.
I want to take mine as far as I can go with it. And we're just going to overlap in some of those. And it is what it is. So you're going to sell to your competitors. When I was visiting one of our early guests, Charles Hutchins, that was, I think I mentioned that on the podcast one time before, but I was like, I see you got some competition across the street. And he was like, I got what? And I was like, competition. And I didn't realize he was baiting me. And then he was like, no, I don't have any competition. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, those are just friends that sell sheds too. Sometimes they get them. Sometimes I get them. Sometimes they'll recommend me because I sell what's best for the customer. And sometimes I'll send them over there.
Correct.
And I was blown away. I was like, dude, that's the attitude right there.
Yep.
You got to have that.
Yep.
So
and that's what we tell our team. We tell them all the time, don't treat your competitor like a competitor.
Right.
You're going to win some, you're going to lose some, but what was best for the customer? And if you think about Texas, for instance, I'll just use that for an example. The Austin area and Austin city limits and there's just the area around it, 15-mile band around that, you're talking about 4 million to 5 million people. So I can't sell 1 million sheds to these people. So we're going to have to share that space. We need to share that space, and there's plenty of space there for everyone if we just kind of, I think if we work together. There's a lot of things in this industry that I've noticed in the last 10 years, and we've already made a lot of headway. We've changed a lot of things about this industry just from UPB, and we're still doing that. There's a lot of cultural things. There's a lot of business practices that just needed to be changed. And as a group, if we've been working on something in the back end, we're working on a group we would like to bring a lot of the shed companies together to one group, one kind of like think tank.
Yep.
And
Awesome.
not be so much about who's trying to do better than the other. Obviously, success is always on everyone's mind, but I think we can get more of that. It's like iron sharpeneth iron, right? I mean, again, I'm not going to steal their vision, but maybe there's a way we can help each other in the industry space to do better.
there's common denominators that connect us all, and we can all. That's why I say all the time, like we go get a sales training. Like, that's cool, but then there's things that are specific to shed sales.
Right.
So, like, you take the good of overall sales training and you use it, but not all those things relate to your particular product or your industry. Sometimes I'll go out and I'll sell rent-own. You know, sometimes I'll go out and meet someone for RTO. We're trying to sell a B2B type vision. We're trying to sell to a business, to people who sell. Like you were saying, you try to sell something to a salesperson.
Right.
So we're trying to sell to salespeople, to a customer and an end user who's ultimately going to be our customer.
Right.
You know, it's very complex. And I mean, we've tried to sell, you know, whether it be sheds for sale, whether it be Shed app, whether it be, I mean, just like different tech platforms or whatever. And you go out and you're like, are you using something? And they're like, no. And it's almost like they're guarded to use yours. And you're like, well, use somebody's because it's going to help you. Like we're just trying to be a consultant in that space. Like you're saying, even when you meet with competitors, you're like, you should use somebody's. We couldn't provide RTO for everybody. We couldn't, you know, we can't sell everyone a shed. You can't do it all. So we just find mutual spaces. But what you're talking about is the maturing of the industry, I think, and the betterment of the industry. And like, hey, it's just a good time for us to come together, you know, and try and do that and try to represent ourselves as a industry that can move forward. We pose questions like, how big is it? 2 billion, 4 billion, whatever.
Right.
You know, well, why don't we take that and go to 8 billion? And then everybody's happy.
Everybody's making money.
You don't have to focus on just taking your piece of the pie. Let's go make the pie bigger.
Right.
How about that? You know, that's our thought anyway. But.
The truth is we don't want to work with everyone.
Yeah.
we all have those people.
Well, it's like going to church. If you're true, there's like, I really don't want to go to church with that person. That is what it is. So, you know, I saw an ad the other day. I've seen it twice now since I've been on this trip, and I think it was Subaru. I'm wanting to say it's Subaru, automotive commercial. And the commercial, the entire premise of the commercial is not really selling cars. It is that in the last 10 years, they've donated over 200, I believe it's 225 or $235 million to, and they go through it, the Make-A-Wish Foundation, all these different foundations. And even seeing that, the heartbeat of our company has been giving. Yep. And so when I think you're right, take it to $8 billion, but what that makes me immediately think about is what kind of impact could the shed industry be on, let's just say United States right now on local level, just on this country? Wouldn't it be pretty cool if the shed industry as a whole could say we donated $250-300 million in 10 years to these causes and be a part of that? Just from I know it sounds, when I tell people I'm in the shed space, in the shed business, they go, "You're in the what?"
Yep.
Yeah.
And I know it's odd, but if you...
Well, you have to almost be in it to understand.
You do. Yeah. And then you start driving down the highway once you're in it, and you're like, shed.
I know who that is.
So,
I know who that is.
Yeah.
I bet I know. We did that yesterday.
I delivered that shed.
we literally did
I
that.
sold that shed,
Yesterday it was like, yep, we sold that shed.
We do that all the time.
it happens all the time, yeah.
Well, what I love, kind of piggying back off of that, is just, with the devastation in Mayfield, seeing the shed industry, the people who are in this area, people that aren't even in this area, coming to help, amazes us. We threw out a post on Facebook. We were trying to buy generators. We wanted to buy 10 generators. Wild hair idea. I decided to throw a Twitter post at Chip Gaines.
Saw that.
Shout out to Chip Gaines.
Yeah.
And just to see if he would respond or if he'd retweet it, he ended up buying 10 generators.
Yeah.
We ended up buying, I think, 45 altogether. Delivering those
so
yesterday.
far 45 in 2 days. Sam's been a huge part of that in the Brotherhood, and they're talking about coming up for weeks at a time with, just skid steers and different things to kind of help.
And seeing the guys at Premier and
literally, we were giving a generator away, and a guy from a Premier truck drove by giving out water. We didn't even know him. We're just like, hey, it was just like so surreal. It was a real moment.
Like, I don't want to leave out anybody, but it's just everyone that's come. I mean, you came up and helped as well. I mean,
we're partnering with a local
Texas,
church over there. Justin from Midco, we're reaching out. We're seeing what the needs are. Actually, Jason Graber from Shed Suite.
Yes.
He, if you saw his Facebook post,
gave away.
I'm actually going to be. We're actually getting runners put on those today. I actually just texted him earlier, and I'm actually donating. I'm having one of my drivers from Texas drive to Florida.
That's awesome.
And we're going to load all 3 of them on the back of one of my trailers. And we've reached out to several people up in Mayfield. Going to find out who can use those as a place of shelter. And so we're donating that time and the fuel and the driver, and that's all good. We're excited to do it, and we're going to get a driver, go up and drop them off up there. And so everyone's plugging in. You said all the names, and I saw a lot of those players out there. I saw the Stormore guys out there doing a great job, fantastic job. They were out there with Justin from Midco. I saw the Premier trailer going around, and I know, and then I've seen the post, and it's just everybody's come together, which is great. It's usually a bad thing, right? It usually takes a catastrophic event to get everybody to come to a meeting or into the same city. But, hey, at the same time, it shows the heart of the business. And so that's great.
Yeah.
Well, we thought it was cool to see so much of the...
It's what this country needs, right?
Yes.
I mean, just not to get political or anything like that, but, I mean, just to come together, with a common vision, with a common heart, to help people is amazing. And this industry does it better than anyone that I know of.
That's the thing. It's ministry. Sometimes you're selling a shed. Sometimes you're building a business, or you're building up, your vision or whatever, but you're ultimately doing ministry in almost every direction that you see. And because of that giving space, United, I was writing this down because I was looking at these different things. You guys give to, oh gosh, where's it at? I want to find it. McCain Children's Hospital, is that right?
Sure.
Says that you donate like a portion of pretty much all of your sales to that, or I don't know how that works.
So every shed that we sell, there's a portion of every shed that gets sold that at the end of each month, we tally up the sales for the previous month, and we cut a check to them at the beginning of the next month for all the sales for the previous month.
That's awesome, man.
What better thing can you donate than to the benefit and health of children? The future generations and the next generation.
Well, when you're talking kids, I mean, again, the politics come off the table at that point, right?
That's right. Yeah.
I think we all have a common, whatever your background is. It doesn't really matter when it comes to helping children. It's a common denominator that we all want. I think we all have that heart and burden for. It was pretty funny. I was down in Louisiana. Have you guys seen that? We have the John Schneider sheds and all that guy.
Was gonna, yeah.
Well, I
had a little mark down here. I was like, I got to mention this.
Well, I got to say this because I did not know this one fun fact. I'm down in Louisiana hanging out with him because I had become friends with him outside of sheds and just over a period of a few months talking and getting to know him and stuff. So me and my wife went down to spend a weekend with him and hang out, and we're talking with the dinner, and he's driving one of my cars back, and my wife or his wife, my wife might be driving one of his cars back or something, and we're talking about giving. And we're both talking about, hey, the older we get, I've learned that it's more about what I give than it is about what I get. And so we're just having this conversation. He goes, I'm the founder of the Children's Miracle Network. And I'm like,
what?
No, you're not. I'm just joking. You know, I'm like, what? And he's like, no, I'm me and Marie Osmond, we founded that. And I'm like, you're the actual founder of that, because everyone's heard of that, right?
Yeah.
Walmart's
absolutely.
their biggest donor. And so he tells me the whole story, and it's just a unique, fun story. And so sure enough, he is the founder of children. They've given over $8 billion to children around the world. And so he said, hey, this McCain Children's Hospital you're giving to, he said, I bet they're part of our network. So I'm on the phone. I'm in the car with John Schneider. I'm texting one of my guys at the office. Hey, check on this right now. He texted me back like 20 minutes later. Yes, they are a part of it. And I was like, John, they are. He said, well, look, I'll do some plugs for you. Whatever you need me to do to help promote that.
Nice.
I want to see the kids benefit from this. And so that was just a fun fact I wanted to throw out there.
That's awesome.
So most people don't know that about him, so it's pretty cool.
Seeing the news, like, and seeing it, like, on your website, Bo Duke, like, I'm 41 years old. So, like, for me, I remember some of my earliest memories are, like, my mom putting up the Christmas tree. This is, like, 1985. You weren't born yet, were you?
I was not.
What? Is he allowed at this table?
Well, we only take him so serious. So
Okay.
you gotta understand.
I built this table, Casey.
Oh, okay. That's why you're here. You built it.
So I remember, watching the Dukes of Hazzard. I was enthralled with, like, as every young boy is, with like fast cars and just the whole everything that it represented. I mean, from the Waylon Jennings' iconic song and flattening the hills and straightening the curves, but just being excited to watch that and watching those guys and, like, I don't want to say idolizing them, but I mean, honestly, having like a portion of you that was like, man, I want to do that. That looks cool. That looks fun. And to see those personalities grow up now, I think Ted DiBiase was another one, the $1 Million Man from WWE. Went and saw him, and he was giving his testimony and about how, because you've seen other testimonies go the other way in professional wrestling and things like that. So you watch these guys and you idolize them, and the ones that grow up and they have like this conservative mentality and they're fighting that almost against Hollywood. I saw John has a podcast. And I saw where he was sort of taking, like, the Alec Baldwin thing. We're getting real political now, but the Alec Baldwin thing to task recently. Sure. And I was like, get him, John, get him. I'm just in support of, like, these conservative people. I don't want to support them without reason or cause. Sure. But he seems to really, like, represent who I am as an adult, and that's cool when you see them in a different space as a child. Right. Like a baseball star or like a movie star or something. And then for them to represent the same thing that you do, it's like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah. You don't see that from John is very conservative. We resonate on a lot of the same values. And so when we're together and we're doing things, he was at our Christmas dinner for our employees. We had a couple weeks ago in Greenwood, Mississippi. Him and his wife came through and had dinner with us, and got to talk to him about the Alec Baldwin situation and just, hear his input. But one thing that resonates is the Hollywood thing is, there's always, you hear these actors that are more on what we believe, and they have this one key word I hear that a lot of times is an agenda. And when you hear them, these actors that you grew up watching in Smallville, Dukes of Hazzard, and all these other things he's played in, I don't know if you guys remember Kevin Sorbo from the Absolutely.
So I text and talked to him a good bit, and I've met him, and so and he was telling me a story one time. He said, Casey, he said, the reason I quit doing a lot of Hollywood is there's an agenda. And it was so funny, John, years later now, 3 years, 4 years later, since I've been talking to Kevin Sorbo and knowing him, the same term was used. And so I asked him about it one time, and they said, anyway, they went through this whole political thing, but more than that, they went through the spiritual side of it. Yep. And so anyway, it's pretty cool. They have the same values. So
there's so much of that. I mean, McConaughey, like, I watch him a little bit, and Denzel, and like they probably wouldn't appreciate, not that they're ever going to know who I am, but they probably wouldn't appreciate me tying them into that space to where they're closed off in that corner. But there is a level of conservatism that is sort of pushing back a little bit, in the country from a political perspective. And it's cool to watch. Man, I'm excited. I think it's really cool that you have him down there. We have a little bit more connection than I thought. Like, my grandma was from Baton Rouge originally. Okay. So, like, she's Louisiana native, and I didn't realize we'd have so much, like, space that we were sort of in. Other thing I wanted to talk about on your website, which was really cool. Sure. You guys have partnered with Walmart, Mississippi and Texas only, but to sell your flagship 8x12. Is that right?
Correct. We wanted to start out with a smaller shed to try that space out, see how it's going to work. It's been a long process, and I think we still have a long way to go with it. There's a lot of issues there that you have to work through, not on our end, but from Walmart's end.
A lot of red tape, I'm sure.
So much red tape. As a matter of fact, right now, I still get probably 18 to 20 emails a day And out of those, one of them may be one that I actually have to take time to read. But it's some of the red tape stuff that comes with it. But yeah, we were excited that one of our guys in the office really worked hard to get that and try to see how that was going to work out. And so we're going to, in 2022, really push that hard and see what that makes available. We're working towards kitting a shed, so to be a shippable kit shed. Yeah. And I think that'll be the space that we're able to really make that work. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. How'd you hear about the Shed Geek podcast?
So Facebook, I think, is where I originally first heard about it. You guys were popping up all over my Facebook because you were encroaching on all my privacy. And you were just everywhere. So
everywhere you go.
It was just popping up. We're all connected to some of the same people in the shed world, as you said, in the shed space. You'd be amazed. We go to the shed show. We're at the shed show. And as you're walking around, you're like, I know that person. Oh, that person's married to so-and-so who manages so-and-so shop. Anyway, so I started seeing you guys pop up all over the place and really started watching what you were doing.
Fun fact, you were actually one of the first. You actually were the first person to reach out to us, send us an email.
Really?
Yeah, once we set up our email. At that time, it wasn't Shed Geek. It was
something
the
else.
Shed Life.
Yes.
The Shed Life. We're going to do the Shed Life podcast. That's a terrible name, but for a podcast. Hey. But you reached out to us and kind of introduced yourself, and we were just kind of talking by email and said, I was like, hey man, you need to come on the podcast. You're like, I'd love to, and then we just kind of life happened.
Communication does what it does.
2020 happened, I guess. And
2020 happened. Big 2020 and 2021.
Or 2021.
Yeah, I don't know which one we're going to blame right now.
Yeah, it was March,
more than the other. So.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Hey, stop what you're doing and take a listen to today's High Barn sponsor.
Union Grove Lumber should be your first call for barn lumber. Trust us, if it comes from a tree and goes on a barn, we distribute it. Back in 1986, when we distributed lumber by the piece, we had a simple vision in mind: to source quality products at competitive prices, served with good old-fashioned customer care. This is a vision we still hold true to, though our lumber yards have had pretty big makeovers over the years. We carry everything it takes to build a barn, including siding, flooring, notched runners, pressure-treated joists, and European spruce. Our seasoned team works together to deliver products to builders in all 50 states and Canada.
To reach Union Grove Lumber, call 704-539-5506.
Or reach them online at uniongrovelumber.com. Woo!
I've always wanted, so back, and this is kind of what you're saying, like crazy dumb ideas, right?
Yep.
So years ago when I was just selling for Graceland and me and my wife we had our retail locations and we were just, having fun with this, I said, oh man, I'd love to do like this. Back then it was going to be like this little live show and it was going to be like Shed Minute with Casey or something, and it was going to be like, or a minute, for whatever it was going to be. Yep. And so we wanted to do this little thing where we talked about like what you could do with your shed or, the gardening tips or, whatever. And that's where it really sprang off for me. I've always had an interest in media, cinematography, those type of things. And so when I saw what you guys were doing, I'm like, this is what I've been talking about. This is what's needed to really bridge the gap and bring, like you're doing now, and these people we talk about that you're bringing on to your podcast. And it really gives people a story and a background. They don't wonder, who's Casey?
Yep.
Because I know people in the industry.
That's exactly right.
Who is Casey Wiggins? Yes. Where did he come from? What is United Portable Buildings? Well,
what do they stand for? Yeah, who are they?
There you go. It's more than that's a competitor. I see his website popping up. Or, hey, that's another guy selling sheds. When you get to know who people really are and what their vision is and what they're about, it really just resonates, and I think it makes us more connected in the industry. So
I think some people are apprehensive sometimes to come on the show, just because they don't really know what to expect.
Sure.
But once they do it, they're like, oh, that was great.
That was fun.
Like, can we do that again? It's not as crazy as I thought. And it helps because, like you said, people get to see who the business is, who's behind it, and we always say this all the time, but people buy from people they like, right?
Right.
And if you're a 3D guy or you're whatever, and you're coming in here and you're talking, and they actually get a voice to those emails or to those,
sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they tend to kind of, oh yeah, I know. Like, how many people have been like, oh man, I know Bob, but I didn't know that he did this. You know,
I didn't know.
And it's like
the details of the nuance.
I've known Jim for years, but I didn't know he started doing this. You know what I mean? So it's really cool.
Sometimes they get lost in conversation, and some of those rabbit holes are intentional. Some of them are unintentional. Sure. But every now and then you'll find one that's magic and it works and it's just good and everybody responds to it, and the emails kind of show that. And really just the feedback for us has been really cool. Man, I think it's really cool what you guys are doing. We definitely want to get down to Temple sometime. And
absolutely.
Even if we meet you over in Mississippi, which is much closer, I think it's about 2 hours south of Memphis, so we could be down there pretty quick.
Mm-hmm. We'll be there in like 5 hours.
Yeah, we'll have to come down and we'll have to make that drift thing happen.
Check out the assembly line, and then we can talk about our drift program.
Yeah, definitely. We're gonna
get sponsorships for this Walmart.
We're gonna do this.
So manufacturing woes, I kind of wrote this down, just kind of getting away from UPB, just general topics or terms. Manufacturing woes in 2022. What do you think we're going to see? What do you think? What do you think was previous before this? Where do you think it is now, and what do you think we're going to see from a manufacturer perspective?
You know, I answered some questions the other day for Shed Builder magazine. They're doing a front cover, I think, story on us, and we've done a lot of stories with them and articles. And as I said, one of the questions similar to this question is, if you'd asked me that before March of 2020, it was a whole different answer, being honest with you.
Yeah.
The last 2 years of, in the grand scheme of things, 2 years really is overnight.
Yep.
Things have changed a lot. And so what we found so far, so I'll just tell you this, during the last 2 years, the challenges for us were obviously the cost. Cost of materials went up, and it was not really we knew it was coming in a way, but for about 4 months in a row, there was no vendors calling out and saying, hey, there's something bad coming. We're not just giving you little pieces of increases here. There's bad increases coming. No one really was giving anyone that feedback. And I've talked to Jonathan Orwick about this, talked to many, many guys in the industry about this. So we got knocked down a little bit off that because no one had their retail pricing where it needed to be anyway. That's been my number one pet peeve in the shed industry for 10 years.
Yeah.
And for me, COVID provided an opportunity to course correct that. Now, what I'm seeing is, and this is a shout out to all the shed companies out there, don't drop your prices back down to pre-COVID, guys. You're in this to grow a successful company and be a good steward of what God's given you. So run the company like a true businessman. Look at your cost and what it takes to run your company, and don't just base it on the price of the guy down the street because their overhead may be different than your overhead. So anyway, the challenge with the materials was the price and then the availability. And then third to that became the quality, because we noticed that companies that we were getting, trusted companies that we were getting windows from, for instance, all of a sudden, whoever they were getting their windows from, they couldn't get them, so they were going to outsource into other sources, China and places. Well, what happened is that, again, no communication, so we order, you get a truckload of these things in, and now you've got 20 repairs out in the field you're having to do because these windows all of a sudden were not manufactured correctly.
Yeah.
You know, so it created customer service issues for us. So going into 2022, I'm in with LP with one of their guys up there. Rick Frazier's a great guy. Yeah. Their whole team up there is just great.
Just interviewed him last week.
He is an amazing gentleman. Love that guy. We've been knowing each other now for several years, and I would have to say probably one of the most supportive men that I know that is not necessarily in the shed space part of sales or manufacturing or delivering.
Yeah.
Love that guy. But anyway, shout out to Rick. But I know they've got a couple new mills opening up in the first quarter of 2022, and that's going to help out a lot with the LP product if you're using LP product. I see 2022, the pricing is already better. I see it getting much better. I still see availability for the first 2 quarters being an issue. Yeah. And I see quality being not a big issue, but still a small issue as well. Yep.
So do you think pricing around like all over is going to go down in 2022? I mean, do you see? I mean, I know it's starting to kind of dip right now. Do you still see that happening? And if so, do you still keep your prices where they're at?
So we finally made a decision that no one in the Southeast was willing to do. Back last year, probably around June, May, we realized this is just out of hand. The metal companies were raising the price every 20 to 30 days. The lumber was just not stopping. I said, guys, we can't keep doing a little incremental 5-10% price increase, right? Let's be fair to the dealer. Let's be fair to the customer. And let's go ahead and we just jacked it up. We just went up, man. We figured this will carry us through for the next several months. We have not backed down from that price. And even though pricing has got much better, but I have found myself finally in a position where where we should be as a company. Yep. So what happened to me over the years was Jim Bob would go sell sheds for somebody or work for him in a shop, and then eventually decided that he wanted to build his own sheds and sell his own sheds. And well, he knew that they sold their 10 by 16 for $2,100. He's going to sell his for 19 or, $3,000, whatever. And they just, no one took the time to do what they call, so when I do consulting, I ask shed companies all the time, what's your bombs? Where are your bombs? What's a bomb? What is a bomb? And I'm like, you build a material sheet? Do you know how much it costs to build that 10 by 16? Well, not really, not roughly. Do you know what it cost?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I see pricing going down, but now spring's going to come in. You guys know what happens in spring. OSB goes up typically. Builders start building stuff like crazy. So there'd be the natural increase, I think, to the pricing. But I don't think it'd be the COVID related, hopefully.
I think a lot of, you're talking about Jim Bob there. There's a ton of those Jim Bobs across the nation. And what happens is
pop up every week.
Yeah, we were talking
just
about
down the street from me just the other day.
I'm sure. I'm sure. And they see that it's a lucrative business, but let's be honest, they see the tip of the iceberg.
Sure.
You don't see all the rest of it, which is, there's a whole lot of work, that sleepless nights and stress and borrowing and everything else that went into it you didn't see.
Yeah, we just talked about this. Builders, you're going to say this, I'm sorry to
go for
interrupt
it.
you,
No,
but
go for it.
Do it.
builders like to build, right?
Sure.
So they decide to start their own company.
Mm-hmm.
They forget that when you start your own company, now you got to sell them.
Right.
Yeah, they got all these sheds, and they're like,
You gotta
I'm a shed
deliver 'em.
builder. I love to build these sheds.
You got to market them.
And then
Yes.
they get them, and they go,
That's
what do I
the
do
big
with
one.
them? I got to sell them. I just
Sure.
got drug into a retail space, and a retail space was not what I was going for. Now I have to learn about things like the different technological platforms, the different 3D generators, Idea Room, Shed App, Shed Suite, like all those guys that are, they share space in some ways, and then others do different things in other spaces. But
not just that, I got a Facebook, right? Facebook
yeah.
Marketplace,
Yeah.
whatever, Craigslist, like whatever you want to say out there that's out
Sure.
there. Sheds for sale, Shed Hub,
Yeah.
SEO, website,
Google.
development, Google,
Everything.
And they're
Google
like,
AdWords.
I wanted to build a shed. How did this happen?
Yep.
It's because it's like what we say all the time. You can make a living building sheds. You can make a living selling sheds. You can make a living delivering sheds. You can make a living
buying sheds.
buying
RTO-ing sheds,
RTO
yeah.
and sheds. You can make a living supporting them with materials to help build sheds. Trying to do them all is starting 4 different businesses, and now you need to talk about scalability.
Sure.
Let's quit talking about that you're just a shed builder, and then you don't pay any attention to your salespeople. If they're not getting development in terms of sales training,
Sure.
who's developing them?
Correct.
The question is, how good can they get if there's no development that exists for them?
Absolutely.
So, Casey, here's my question. Is there somebody out there, maybe you're that person, I don't know, but that could start a company just to sell for these guys that just like to build? You know how many people that we run into daily that they just want to build sheds? They have, they're really good at building sheds, but
Sure.
they can't scale the sales. They can't scale the marketing. They can't.
Correct.
Like, is there anything out there for people like that right now currently? I mean, I can't think of anything.
I don't think there's anything out there. For about 5 years now, that has been tossed around in our office. We are continually out of the box thinkers. We do some crazy stuff. We love it. And so I've always said, if you put me in a box, it's okay. I'm just going to blow the box up. And I don't like being in a box. I think there is an opportunity for that. I think what's happening is when you try to speak to, I'll just be honest, when you try to speak to other people about this, I've approached a couple other people in the shed space about this, and immediately the defenses go like, well, I want to do that first. Or I want to get rich first. Or I want to be the guy whose name's on the board out front who did it.
Agreed.
And I'm the guy that's like, I don't care if my name's on or not. Number one, are we going to help? Are we going to help fill a space that there's a need? Are we going to fill a need? Will we help these people grow their businesses? And ultimately, let's be honest, will I do well financially out of this? And if I am, put your name on it. I don't care. Put a tattoo. I don't care what you do. But no, I think there's a space for it. I get excited when I think about ideas like that because I know people like that. As a matter of fact, when I said down the road from me just now, 2 years ago in Texas, we were faced with 2020. The sales went crazy. You guys know that. Yep. So our on-site builds in Texas just went through the roof. And to be honest with you, we were not prepared for it. And so we were needing crews like ASAP. Well, so was everyone else. And so someone approached me in the local area. I'd seen his little ads on Facebook Marketplace, wasn't doing a whole lot, but I was like real impressed that he was trying, Yep. And so he reached out to me actually, and then I reached back out to him and I said, listen, man, what's going on? What you got? And he said, well, I have my own business, and it's a little small business. And he says, it's me and like 2 guys. and operate out of my backyard basically. But I build a shed a week or a shed every 2 or 3 weeks, but I don't have enough work to keep them busy. I said, I'll make a deal with you, man. I said, I know you're probably going to think this is weird, but how about this? You come in and help me catch up my own sites. Your guys will have work year-round, period, as long as you want it. I'll pay you very well. And in the meantime, I will help mentor you and grow your personal business. I will help you. Now, I said, growing a business like this, I want you to know, is a challenge, and it's a lot of challenges and obstacles, but I'll help you. I'll help you as far as you want to go. So I never heard back from the guy. A few months later, he calls me. We're in the pandemic where the material problem, right? And now I'm hearing from him. And he's decided to go do his own thing a little bit more, and he's trying. And I see him on these groups asking for RTO companies and things. And so anyway, now he's like, hey, man, I can't get windows because he doesn't have lines of credit and all stuff, which is nothing, not a knock on the guy. He's doing his best he can. Sure. And we needed the windows. I'm not going to lie to you. There was a lot of materials that we just could not afford to get rid of. And I'd say, go to the shop, tell the plant manager, I say, give you what you need. Well, how much do I owe you? Nothing. Just go get them, go finish a job, take care of your family. And this went on for probably 6 or 8 months. And doors, garage door, window, this, that. I gave it all, no problem whatsoever. And I'm just saying that's what we like to do.
I understand.
So I find out about 3 months ago that he has, so the RTO space can be tricky, okay? There's good RTO companies out there. There's some out there that are just out for blood. You got to be careful. And I tell these small guys, be careful who you sign a contract with. So he took money from someone. He opened a little shop, like literally 4 or 5 miles down from my corporate office. And I saw it pop up, and I was like, well, God bless him. Hope he does good. It's a lot to it, Well, I get a phone call from him 2 weeks ago. Hey, man, I'm in trouble. What's going on? I can't even put electric lines or air hoses in my shop. I've spent all the money. I've only built 10 sheds, and all my guys quit on me. And I've got to pay the lease on the shop. What am I going to do? I said, well, let me guess. You signed the deal with the devil. You can't get out of this, right? And he's like, no, we went through this whole spiel. I still helped him. Navigating him through some things he could do to try to get back on track. What can I do to help you? But his words to me, going back to what you said, was, I wish I'd have just stayed building sheds. And he didn't realize, and it's because they see, let's say me, I've been very blessed, but they got to understand, number one, it's God. Yep, right. God, there is nothing I have or I have done without number one, God. B, my team. And 3, the ambition, the vision, the passion, and that comes with stress, no sleep, a lot of things. So when they see these things and they see, well, wow, Casey Wiggins started the business in 2017 and he's a $20 million a year company, which is not a big company, but in 4.5, 5 years, we're where we.
Yeah, you're doing well.
And we would love to expand. We will be expanding more. But when they see that, they just think, well, I can do that. And you can if you do it the right way with the right support. But if you just go in blindly and, like you said, try to do all these things at one time.
Well, I mean, it's like Shannon said, they're just seeing the end result, right? They're seeing where you started, where you're ending. Like, if Casey can do that, I can do that, right? I mean, the truth is, you can if you work your butt off and
if you plan it right.
You have to make the right choices.
You have to make the right choices.
Literally, the difference in a millionaire and a thousandaire is not how much hard work. In my opinion, it's the choices that make. So your choices and your lack of knowledge, because knowledge costs you something. Right. If you're a shed hauler, you'll agree to that, because whenever you go move a shed, if they're paying you $800 to move a shed and a guy comes in and does it for $400, he's probably a year one guy, and he's got to cut prices to get ahead. The guy who's doing it, he's getting paid for his years of service, right? And it's his expertise to be able to come out there. It's his equipment purchases. It's knowing the permitting. It's knowing So I mean, there's a cost to knowledge, and if you're not if you're not willing to invest in knowledge, that's why we talk about training so much. On the podcast that's actually releasing today, we're interviewing today. It's a Wednesday, but the podcast that's going out today is talking a lot about that space. We were talking about we've just flirted with so many different ideas, shed coaching and consultation and Shed Geek University. And we're sort of putting the feelers out there to see if there's like 6 different people in the industry that want to come on board and sort of get behind like a mentorship, sort of like a committee type program where you can actually develop spaces and do things for like SDRs and develop, develop reps, like reps need to be developed. And a lot of that space comes in the maturity of the industry, where you have what we like to say is always like consignment lots and then wholesale or company-owned lots. You care to share what you do at UPB? I want to keep saying UPG. I don't know why.
I guess change the name today.
So what do you guys do there, if you care to share? Because there's a difference. Those models are really important on your growth and vision.
Yes. So, going in, number one, you mentioned sales rep. I want to just cover that real quick because it's part of our business model going in was, and still today, this tends to be the business model. I know several reps that work for several of the big reputable companies. And let's be honest, they're more hangout relationship guys, right? Yep. They come by, how are you guys doing? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. How's business? You want to go to lunch? On the company's dime. And then they get paid a percentage of sales off all of their dealers. A lot of these sales, I don't know if you guys know how that works.
Oh, yeah.
So
I was a sales rep.
Yep. And so when I was sales repping for StarTech, I didn't realize that. And I just knew my background because in law enforcement also still did some business stuff with manufacturing I had done in the previous. And so my thing was I knew how I ran my business. And so when I sales rep for StarTech, the owner called me one day and he's like, hey, man, what are you doing? And I said, what do you mean? He said, man, our sales are going up like insane. I said, well, I'm teaching your dealers how to do something like lead ads on Facebook. Yep. Most dealers in the shed industry don't know how to do that. Yep. The way I learned in my business, Casey's Portable Buildings, was I stayed up for a month till 3 or 4 a.m. every night, and I said, I'm going to figure this out. Mm-hmm. And then I passed that knowledge on. So what we did, the first business model was no sales rep. No sales rep in our company, right? And now we just got a guy who's our sales manager. Mm-hmm. And so, but what we do is we train our dealers. I coined the term shed expert about 6 years ago.
Nice.
And so a lot of people have tried to take it on now. I know a couple of companies in Texas have tried to put a little spin on it, but that is something I came up with. It's called shed expert, and that's what we're getting away from calling our people dealers or sales guys to shed experts because truly that's what you should be. You should be an expert in your space and know what to do. But anyway, so the business model was sales rep out the door because we need people to train, educate, grow them, and things like that. And then number two was we only were going to take on dealers that had the potential to want to grow and be mentored. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people were, in other words, we're not the company that's going to put a dealer on every corner. We're just not. Right now in Mississippi, I have 9 dealers. So how is it that my 9 dealers can do a little over $9 million to $10 million in sales? I don't need 36 dealers to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, Kyle says it all the time. You take, it's just like with location, take I'm stealing your thunder there, but you take like an A+ dealer and put him in a C- location and you'll get A+ sales.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's all about your salesperson. And that space has really been, I don't want to say ignored intentionally, but at least unintentionally, that it has not been developed.
Correct.
So hey, how do we develop that?
Sure.
And if there's money to be made off of that, I always lead with that.
I think there is.
Just to be clear.
There's a lot.
I think you just lead with, hey, I'm trying to make money for my family. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Because if it's okay for me, then it's okay for you. It's okay for everyone.
Yeah.
We do the same thing. You were talking about the competitiveness with we do partner with JMag. We work for JMag. It's one of the spaces. It doesn't mean we don't promote other people. We just don't go door to door saying, use them, don't use me. We show you our vision and why but we say all the time, like in that space, it's difficult to knock down doors. Mm-hmm. You can go in and usually everybody's like, oh, you're just after my rent on. I'm like, hey, can we go ahead and get this out of the way?
Yep.
I'm always after your rent on.
Yeah.
I'm always curious to have a conversation with you. If we can partner with you, great. If it works, if it doesn't, maybe we can get you in touch with someone else. So you can go ahead and let the barriers down. Mm-hmm. And now we can have a conversation.
Sure.
The struggle is, and I bet there's some reps from other RTO companies out there listening and telling me to go right now because I think they feel this, is when you walk in the door and you at least want to talk about your product.
Right.
Is when you get the cold shoulder from a sales guy. Mm-hmm. And you think you probably wouldn't appreciate that if your customer was that way and you're my customer. So just hear what they have to say. Hear what they have to say, and then if it fits, that works. But no, it's really not necessary to be so stone cold against most everything. Hey, learn, because you're sacrificing an opportunity to learn there.
Absolutely.
You never know what you can learn from the competitor.
Key word that comes up there for me is networking.
Yep.
So when you pass up on an opportunity to network, then to me, you're not showing the real skill set of an entrepreneur, true entrepreneur, because to me, networking is the number one way to grow a business or to grow yourself. For instance, that cold shoulder, why not have that inviting conversation? Because I may get to know you, and maybe right that moment, I don't have a need that you can fill, but I've networked with you, and then down the road, it may come in handy that I know you, and that may be a phone call a year down the road that says, hey, man, we had that conversation, had lunch one day, and maybe I'll stay in touch with you. And now it's an opportunity for me because now I do need you.
But now they've learned. They've learned what even their competitor does. So I'm like, what does it bother you that people go in and they try to take your clients away? Absolutely not. Why would it bother me? Of course they're going to go in and do that.
Sure.
I'm real methodical or careful about how I go about presenting business. But I mean, generally speaking, no. they're buying our vision. Our clients buy our vision, and they did it for a reason. Doesn't mean they can't learn from what the other person does. It just means that we fit better. And I'm confident about where we are. So if you're confident about where you are, then you're not intimidated. It's kind of like when someone comes in and says, well, I'm going to go down the road and I'm going to price check on this shed. Okay.
Go
you
for it.
should do that.
As a matter of fact, I'll call them right now and get you a price for you. I teach it to my dealers a lot of times when I'm having meetings. So we do something where every quarter, now COVID during 2020 kind of affected us, obviously. But what we've been doing all outside of 2020 was every quarter we bring all of our dealers to one location. In Texas, we bring them to the location we have right around the corner from our office just because of space requirement. And in Mississippi, we all meet at our manufacturing company there, and we do a whole day. We catered lunch. We bring in one of our marketing guys. We'll do marketing stuff. We'll talk about training. We'll talk about new colors, new options, what we're doing in the future, sales. It's just an educational day. Yep. And so I tell them all the time. They're like, "Well, what do we do if the customer down the street get one cheaper?" I say, "Are you helping the customer?" I say, if the customer has a building down the street they can get cheaper, just explain to them what they're getting. Make sure they understand it's probably not apples for apples. But if they're satisfied with that.
I wanted to say it's so bad. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I wanted to say so bad whenever a customer would come in and say, I'm going to go down the street and I'm going to check on prices. You understand that? I would always answer it with a question. Sure. Will you just do one favor for me? What's that? Will you be as equally thorough on the pricing as the quality? Will you be as equally thorough to go through the shed and make sure that they have the same thing that I have for that price?
Right.
Because if you'll be thorough on the quality of it and not just the price, then I'll be satisfied that I lost because you'll challenge me. Now you've taken me to task to build something better for that space.
Yep.
So I get that, and I'll work on that. But otherwise, all I'm asking is, will you be equally as thorough? Yep. It at least makes them ask questions then.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And again, you're helping the customer.
Yep.
So when they see that, typically if they go down the street, if it's not the kind of person we're talking about being right now, that competitor, a lot of times what I have found is the guys can the sheds are out there. Well, what's good about it? It's a good shed. Do you want it? And they're going to think back in their head, okay, the guy down that I just left, Casey, he's $800 more in his shed, but wow, he knew everything about the material, the lumber, the delivery process, the warranty. He was very passionate about the shed, the colors, and when you start doing that, people really. If you go to buy a Cadillac right now and you go to one dealership and the guy's like, I don't know what this car does. I think it's pretty cool. It's a Cadillac. Do you want it? But if you go down the street and another guy's like, I've got to show you all the new features for 2022. Just take a ride if you don't mind. I want to show you the new suspension system. I want to talk to you about the new technology and you're going to probably buy from that guy, even if it's $1,000 more than you would the guy down the street. So
we hired a buddy of ours one time to sell sheds, and his first comment was, these things sell themselves, right? Do I have to do anything? And I was like,
if they did, you wouldn't be here.
Yeah, it's like, automation. We all want that.
What's the value of having somebody here if it sells themselves? Of course not. You're the most important part of the process, as a matter of fact, in our opinion. That's not dismissing the hard work of
builders
or haulers in any way. They could make a valid argument for why theirs is the most important space. And hey, I want to listen to it. Come on the show. So I'm all ears.
I run down that ladder a lot. I had an RTO company tell me a couple of years ago, and they're like, Casey, if it wasn't for us, there wouldn't be any. These shed companies wouldn't be in business. And I said, you've got that. You might want to look at that in the mirror. I was like, if there weren't any sheds to sell, you wouldn't have any contracts to buy. And I was like, so we can go down that rabbit hole all day long. But let's just be fair. We work together, and
that's it.
And our builders and drivers. You'll hear it from the drivers. Let's be honest. I've been in the driving space now for about 6 years, and so I understand the ins and outs of the business side of that. I don't really get caught up in a lot of the other parts of it, other than just how to run a good business with it. And but I see some drivers sometimes, if it wasn't for us, these manufacturers, and I'm like, well, if it wasn't for the manufacturer, you wouldn't have a job.
Yep.
And you make you make a good living at a pretty young age without having a PhD or master's degree. So, so you can always go back and forth. But ultimately, if sales are not coming in, then nobody's building a shed, no one's delivering a shed, no one's buying an RTO contract on a shed.
I apologize a lot for kind of like, we're in a media space, we're in a mutual space that's has an attempt at being, perfectly equal for everyone on that platform and that space. So a lot of times we'll apologize regularly for we don't want to offend companies. You don't want to offend, whether it be in our space or in the retail space or hauling or whatever. And oftentimes I've apologized because you wouldn't want that company to be upset with you or consider not coming on the show because of
Sure.
something like that. But I think I just kind of hit a point where I was like, there's no apology necessary in terms for like somebody who's not committed to the craft
Sure.
that you feel so passionate about. I mean, I tell dealers all the time, or not dealers, but manufacturers, you know, especially when you bring $90,000 worth of inventory to someone and very little commitment in terms of like monthly sales or sometimes no commitment, that you do have an obligation to take care of them because they've partnered with you. But if there's friendship there, they have an obligation to consider
Sure.
that you're coming out of pocket for that too.
Correct.
You know, so I do take offense to the person who doesn't take it serious. Now, obviously, we can't all be on the same level at the same time.
Sure.
I'm just saying, like, those people are necessary because they allow for other people to come in and take more sales. If you're not learning, if you're not growing, if you're not trying to get more space in terms of like automation or whatever it is. I mean,
Sure.
I don't know what the perfect plan is. Let me be clear. I don't know what the perfect process is.
You sure that's what I came here for?
All I'm saying is it's like you should be learning and growing constantly
Sure.
as a sales rep for
Absolutely.
especially someone who believes in you so much.
We got a few minutes left. The hour's almost up. That's
Wow.
crazy. But
It goes so fast,
went
man.
fast.
It
Went
goes so
fast.
fast.
Next time you have your dealer days, we want to come. Like,
Sure.
can
Yeah,
we
we'd
make
love
that
to-
happen.
love
We'd
to
love
see
to
that.
at least
Absolutely.
talk to them and
Great.
say hi or do something fun with your guys. That'd
That
be
would
awesome.
be a blast.
So in the last few minutes, can you kind of just give your pitch to the industry? What you like, man? What's in your heart for the industry?
Sure. Well, I mean, I would love to see the industry truly that board we're talking about, that group of think tank, these mentors. I wish I even talked to, like I said, I've talked to Jonathan Orrick a lot here lately in the last few months, and I really, my heart is that we could all come together and start making some decisions as a group. The automotive industry has this. Other industries have this. The housing industry has this. Yeah. We're the only industry, not one the only, but we're one of the big industry that we for some reason. We're scared to talk to one another. We're scared to share ideas with one another. And at the same time, I think it's hurting us more than it's helping us. And then I would say outside of that, to all the shed companies out there, I would say going back to pricing, just run your business like a business and be careful not to drop your prices just because you can. Yep. Because you're affecting the rest of the industry. You really are. And I know that to them, they're like, well, Casey, of course we are because we're going to get more sales. Okay, but you're also forcing your profits down, which now forces everybody's profits down. So who's winning here, at the end of the day? And then thirdly, I'd say to all the manufacturers out there, be thinking about automation. It's definitely the next wave. I mean, the bay worker style work is going away really quick. Yep. And there's not that doesn't mean we're getting rid of employees or hurting people. We're transitioning them to other things and other ways of doing business. And I think going forward,
gosh, I want to touch on that so much.
There's a lot to be. I think we probably need to do a part 2 at some point. I could tell you some fun stuff about that we've learned in the last year, and we finally kicked off our automation in Greenwood, Mississippi.
Maybe we need to do that at your plant.
And I tell you what, at first I was real conservative about it. I was like, well, we'll get some production increase, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, like this changes everything. And we can build the inventory. We could build 40 sheds for 2 new lots in like 6-7 days.
Yeah.
Wow. It's a game changer,
I love
and
it.
so anyway, excited about it. But
we'd
just
love to
innovative.
tour it, man. Like, if we get a chance to come down, we'd love to tour it, see what you guys do. And I'd love to watch your process, especially for your dealer days, or if that's what you're calling it, whatever it is.
We really just we call it like a sales meeting type deal. We don't really have a name on it. Now I'm gonna have to give it a name. So I'm all the way home this week.
Your shed experts need a name.
My shed experts need like a name for their meeting, and so
Sheducation.
Sheducation.
Well,
Sheducation is who is it? LP has that.
LP.
Yeah, LP has that. They have.
I'm gonna say we coined that before LP, but it's fine. They're a lot bigger than us. They can
until we can name a football field, we'll let them have it.
They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, until you can put your name on a football on a big stadium somewhere. Don't
the Shed Geek Chiefs.
That's not going to happen ever.
Most importantly, I think you got to have fun, guys. Yeah. If you're doing this business, have fun. The guy, no one can see JT off camera here, but he's with me. He's my operations manager for our company, and that's one thing he'll tell you is we have fun.
Shout out JT.
Yep, shout out to JT. We have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun in this, man. And you've got to be continually letting your team have fun and letting your people have fun, and let them know that there's more to it than just the business side of it. Yep. You got to enjoy life a little bit. So.
I love the energy, man. Honestly, love absolutely everything you're doing, and want to know you more. And
sure,
man. I love it.
We end each episode where we try to with prayer. Do you mind leading us in prayer?
Let's do it. Let's do it right now, guys. Lord, thank you for this opportunity to be able to come into this podcast, Lord, and these two gentlemen that you've put a burden on their heart, Lord, to just do this. And I know there's a reason for it more than just the entertainment or education value, Lord. Lord, I ask you to be with each one of these men and their families, God. Be with all the people that are going to be watching this podcast, Lord, the shed companies, the manufacturers, the sales, the drivers, the builders. Lord, they all have families. They all have a vision. They all have goals. Lord, I ask you to be with each one of them, Lord. Lord, the situation in Mayfield, Lord, that you would bless each and every family and each and every person there that's helping and assisting those that are in need, God, that you would just provide a way that each need could be met, God. I ask you to be with us as we go into this new year, God, and all the challenges and the obstacles that we're going to face, that you would just provide us with the wisdom, the opportunity, and open the doors for us to be able to overcome those, Lord, and see fit to be successful, not for our own gain, our own growth, Lord, but that we could give more, God. You know the burden, the heart of UPB, and you know the burden, the heart of others, Lord, is to give, Lord, to help others. And I ask you just to do that, Lord. Keep us safe, Lord. Watch over us. Continue to grow this podcast and the businesses they're associated with, Lord. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. Appreciate it, Casey.
Appreciate it, guys.
It's cool.
Hey, stop what you're doing. Listen to this mini barn sponsor.
What would your dream rent-to-own program look like? Picture it now. Would it have cutting-edge technology with integrations throughout the shed industry? Or would it include traditional financing and multiple same-as-cash offerings? Perhaps your ideal rent-to-own program puts money back in your pocket. Perhaps it has a unique way to onboard and train your dealer network. Wherever your mind goes and whatever your dream consists of, NewFound Rentals can help you. Give us a call today at 316-536-0472 and let's discuss your dream.